Okay, I have a ton of really cool leaked news and benchmarks today. The main thing I'm going to talk about in this video is the RTX 3080 Ti has had some benchmarks leaked, which is really cool. So as people are getting review samples for these cards, some of the benchmarks end up leaking out there, and I've got some of that to report on for you guys. That'll be most of the video. Towards the end, if you stick around, there'll probably be chapters down in the YouTube thing. I'll also give a little bit of info leaked out about future AMD processors. I'll also talk a little bit more about the Unreal Engine 5, a few stories related to that, including DLSS support being baked in, and then throw in a little bit more about the Switch Pro model that's been leaked recently as well. But let's jump into the main part of the video, which is the RTX 3080 Ti. What do we know? Okay, so first of all, we have the main benchmark that I want to talk about here is from Geekbench. Now, I found this article at videocards.com, although a lot of other places are reporting on it, and I will include a link to all of the articles I talk about in the description to this video. So go down to the description and you can click on all these articles and get all the full details for yourself, and I want to make sure I'm giving credit where credit is due. Okay, so what do we see in this benchmark? Well, first of all, if you're not familiar with it, Geekbench does just kind of post a database of benchmarks submitted running Geekbench. And that's where this shows up. A lot of times that happens before review embargoes are lifted because people are reviewing things and either they slip one out intentionally or unintentionally, it gets posted there. And that's what we're seeing here. So what are we actually seeing? Well, according to that site, we're seeing the device tested was an Nvidia GeForce RTX 3080 Ti. Seems legit. The compute-capable memory was at 8.6. The maximum frequency was at 1.67. I'll mention that I believe we were leaking reports saying that it should be 1.69, so that seems slightly low, but The multiprocessor count is at 80, which is what we expected. That is 2 less than the 3090. Which is what we expected. So we are expecting the 3080 Ti to be much closer to a 3090 than it is to a 3080. With the 3080 having 68 compute units and the 3090 at 82, and this falling in at 80. We're seeing maximum threads per multiprocessor at 1536 and the device memory at 12 gigabytes. This is another thing that is confirmed from leaks that we've seen in the past where we were expecting 12 gigabytes on the 3080 Ti. Which is half the 3090, but hey, if you don't need more than 12, it doesn't hurt you to only have 12, right? More is only better if it's actually needed. So there you go, a bunch of confirmations here to things we already expected, other than the 1.67 seeming slightly lower than expected. Okay, the platform it was tested on is right here if you want to take a look. It looks like a very high-end Rocket, what is that, Rocket Lake S, right? Something like that. Anyway, it's 11900K, 8-core, 16-thread processor, 3.5 base clock going up to 5298 megahertz, blah, blah, blah. It's a solid system it was tested on. I don't need to go through those. Let's just scroll down. Okay, so if you look at the scores that get leaked, these don't tell you much by themselves, right? Like this is fairly meaningless. Hey, cool, numbers and bar graphs. What does it actually mean? Well, let's look at the CUDA score, the overall CUDA score. Geez, I keep clicking on the thing. I am failing. There we go. I wanted to zoom in on the CUDA score. 238,603. Now this is useful to compare with other CUDA scores from similar GPUs. If we want to see how this might stack up against a 3080 and a 3090, we can now compare it to CUDA scores of a 3080 and a 3090, and then somehow this now tells us a lot more information. So if we do that, we see that the 3090 has a couple of scores on here. One's at 239,003, which if you again compare it to this score, is barely beating the 3080 Ti, but we see another 3090 clocking in at 236,941, and you'll see that that's falling slightly short of this 3080 Ti. So this leak for the CUDA score, which again is not a gaming benchmark, to be clear on that, but in this particular score, it is falling between these two scores for 3090s. Now, if you're interested where the 3080 falls, those are down here at like 203,000, 201,000. So once again, confirming that the 3080 Ti is going to be much more of a 3090 class card than it is a 3080 class card. okay, much closer to the 3090 side of things. That's what this is pretty much confirming for us. The other thing I found in this article is that they're expecting it to feature a crypto mining hash limiter. I haven't actually seen the source of that. I mean, I guess we're just saying it's expected to, since Nvidia seems to be doing that for its gaming cards now. So we wouldn't be surprised to see that. We're also seeing it expected to support resizable bar. If you're not sure what that is, it's basically what the AMD Smart Access Memory thing is. It removes a little bottleneck in certain games and can make us a small percentage improvement on certain platforms in certain games. Anyway, that's not the point of this video. Now, if you haven't heard, and I've already done a video on this a week or so ago, that it was leaked that that we're expecting these cards to launch on June 4th. And again, they're not even officially announced yet. We're expecting the official announcement on May 31st. By the way, the 3070 Ti is also leaked as launching a week after this. So they'll both be announced on May 31st. The 3080 Ti will come out on June 4th. And then we'll see the 3070 Ti a week after that. And again, the leaks also suggested that the review embargo will be lifted a day prior to launch. So you should have a chance to look at reviews before trying your best to buy one and battle all this bots and scammers and yay. Okay. Anyway, this is not the only benchmark we have for the 3080 Ti today. We also have one in Ashes of the Singularity. Now, before we go any farther, I could say that I could have made a clickbait headline for my video saying the 3080 Ti loses to AMD's 6800 in leaked benchmark. I could say that, but here's what, and that is what we're going to see here. But let's preface this with the fact that the Ashes of the Singularity benchmark, even though it's still used a lot, I have an issue with this being used to read too much into the highest end of GPUs, because this is getting to be a bit of an older game. It came out in 2016. It tends to be CPU bottlenecked, at least somewhat, when you're comparing the very highest end GPUs. So it doesn't tend to give a good, stress to the GPU to show where the cards really fall, at least representative of how they tend to do in other games. Now, and also certain games will favor one architecture over another, that type of thing. So don't read too far into this. That being said, it's the only one of two types of benchmarks that I know of right now for the 3080 Ti. So let's still dig in and see what we see. Okay, so here's what leaked. We've got the RTX 3080 Ti benchmarked at 1080p, 1440p, and 4K, scoring 93 frames per second, 92 frames per second, and 88 frames per second, respectively. Again, notice that these, like even between the 1080p and the 1440p, there's barely a difference in performance there, again suggesting a CPU bottleneck, at least at those resolutions. And then dropping to 4K, it stresses it slightly more, so that's a better, but you see what I'm saying here. It's a bit of a CPU bottleneck in this game. Speaking of CPUs, this was tested on the Ryzen 9 3900X 12 core. So to get relative, like, okay, here's how it scored, but if you don't play this game, who cares how it does in this game? I want to see how it does comparable to similar setups. So what we have here, other games tested, other GPUs tested on the 3900X platform can be found, although probably not uploaded by the same user, so there could be other differences in the platform. So again, this is somewhat limited. But we see the 3080 Ti here down below the 6800 XTs, the 6900 XTs, 6800s. Now again, it's also beating some 6800s. Here's your 3080 Ti's. It's beating some of those, right? This is where I'm saying I don't feel like this benchmark does a great job of distinguishing the GPUs in a realistic way. So here's the results. Make of it what you will. I'm more interested in that CUDA benchmark, but this actually is a gaming benchmark, which is nice. But like I said, somewhat limited. By the way, Video Cards also has a nice summary here that includes what we're expecting the 3080 Ti and 3070 Ti specs to be. And again, these are rumored, these are not confirmed, but we are expecting, once again, it to be much, much closer to a 3090 than to a 3080 if we look at those specs. The main difference being the 12 gigabytes of RAM cut down from the 24. But in a game, you don't, as long as you don't need more than 12, which games right now really don't, then having 24 doesn't really help you. There are other applications where more video memory is great, but for gaming, 12 should be good enough unless you're trying to game at 8K for some stupid reason. No offense if you are. Okay. Anyway, the 3070 Ti, which isn't the main point of this video, but since we're already here, might as well take a look. This is going to be very close to a 3070, but it's stepped up just a little bit better. And while it has the same amount of memory, it's rumored to be the GDDR6X versus the GDDR6, which does boost the memory bandwidth here all the way up to 608 gigabytes per second versus 448. So similar. We don't have any leaked prices on any of these, but how much does MSRP even mean right now? I wouldn't be too concerned about it. Although, since specs-wise, the 3080 Ti is closer to the 3090 than the 3080, I would expect its price to be closer to the 3090 than to the 3080. And the 3070 Ti beats the 3070. There's a big gap between the 3080 and the 3070. What is that, like a $200, $300 price difference? So I'd imagine the 3070 Ti does just slot itself into that middle ground. Hey, MSRP might mean something if you happen to get like a Founders Edition at launch or something like that, right? And then there's the distant future for when hopefully supply settles down. Okay, that's what I have for you guys on the 3080 Ti leaks. Let's hop into the rest of my news that I'm going to try to run through a lot quicker. We got a bit of a leak here about AMD Zen 4 processors being leaked at maybe even an 20% or better gain in instructions per clock. Maybe even having a 16-core flagship DDR5 5200 on the AM5 LGA 1718 socket with a 2022 launch. I don't want to go too much into this. I believe the main source for this was Moore's Law is Dead, who does have a history of getting many AMD-related leaks correct. So, hey, there you go. I'll link this in the description if you want to take a closer look at that. Other related news is a leak regarding AMD Granite Ridge chips, which I believe are more of an APU and are even a further generation ahead. The leak here is saying that it'll be a hybrid architecture of Zen 5 plus Zen 4 and introducing a new cache level and possibly being, and it should be at a 3 nanometer level. And here's their rumored roadmap for these chips that you could take a look at here. Once again, link will be in the description. Okay, this is just a WCCF Tech article on the same topic. Let's just move along here. In the Unreal Engine 5 related stuff that I hinted at the beginning of the video, Nvidia is planning on getting their Reflex, which is their low latency and latency monitoring tech, as well as their DLSS tech, built into the Unreal Engine 5 so that people developing using the Unreal Engine 5 should be able to easily implement DLSS and Reflex into their games. I think that's fantastic. Making it easy to introduce those features into games is a good thing. So NVIDIA is reportedly working on that. So it's not in the early access build that's out right now, but hopefully will be there in time for the full launch. Now, just a completely almost unrelated other than Unreal Engine 5. Hey, Dragon Quest 12, if you care at all about that. I like Dragon Quest, so I'm reporting on it. Anyway, is reported to be using the Unreal Engine 5. Their story is already completely written, and they just need to actually build out the game using the Unreal Engine 5. Now, speaking of when should we expect games for that, if the full version of Unreal Engine 5 is only coming out at the beginning of next year, then should take a couple of years to develop major games inside that from the ground up Unreal Engine 5. All right, last thing I wanted to talk about today is the Nintendo Switch. I get it if you're here for PC news and you don't care about the Nintendo Switch. Personally, although I'm primarily a PC gamer, the Nintendo Switch is my preferred gaming console because I find it to be a nice complement to the PC in that it's a handheld form factor, giving me something different, more portable, and it plays, Nintendo games, which I can't get on my PC. So I really do like my Switch. My main complaint with the Switch is since I primarily use it in handheld mode, I don't really like the screen. It's not a very high quality screen. I would love to have a better colors on it, maybe 1080p. It's currently 720p. I'd rather have 1080p, but more importantly than that, I just want better colors. It's just not a real bright screen. I'm not super impressed. Maybe I'm just picky. Well, this rumor is not only suggesting that it'll support 4K in docked mode connecting to a TV, but that it'll have an OLED screen, which should give it much better colors and especially the black levels and everything like that. So I'm excited for the OLED screen. And again, the 4K is via DLSS. So that's probably not like native 4K capability. It's rumored to be using Nvidia's DLSS upscaling tech. And again, the OLED display is rumored. There's been several leakers, Nintendo leakers, confirming that this is an accurate report and that this should actually be released or at least announced much sooner than we might have thought. Pricing-wise, we're expecting this to be $349 instead of the $299 on the original. We're also expecting the original to be phased out of production so that your choices will be between the $199 Switch Lite, that's the one that doesn't dock and the controllers aren't removable, and the $349 upgraded like Switch Pro with the 4K DLSS support and the OLED screen. Okay, guys, that was a lot to get through today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to talk about all this stuff, I'd love it in the comment section. I read every comment. I reply to as many as I can. One of the main reasons I do this YouTube channel as a hobby is to have a fun place to discuss things I'm interested in. PC, tech, gaming, that kind of stuff. I like to talk about it with people. YouTube's a great place to do that. So if you are interested in what I have to say on those topics, following leaks, news, information, reviews of things that I've got, all of that, feel free to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. No hard feelings if you don't. And feel free to hit a like button on the video if you liked it. And, I guess you could dislike it if you don't. And I don't want to waste any more of your time, but I do hope that you have an excellent day.